Hello, welcome everyone. Let's let you get settled and connected to audio. We're so happy to see everyone today for our open house. If you're here, you get to meet our teachers today in grades kindergarten through fifth grade. So thank you for being here. Before we meet the teacher, I just want to say a few things. My name is Sarah Barrett, and I'm one of the directors here at Lotus and Ivy. And you probably know this, but Lotus and Ivy is a Waldorf program. So we use the Waldorf curriculum, and our teachers all have a special Waldorf teacher training. I say that because the Waldorf curriculum is so special, and you're going to hear more about it from each of our teachers today. But the Waldorf curriculum goes much deeper than curriculum that you might have heard of before. Maybe as a grown up, maybe the curriculum that you had when you were in school. The Waldorf curriculum not only cares very much about math and writing and reading, but we also care so much about other things that may go a little bit deeper than that, like creativity and healthy bodies and imagination. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But first, we want to share with you a program, or actually an activity that Heather and I created that will help you if you're still trying to figure out what you want for your child's education. It'll really help you figure that out. I'll turn it over to Heather to talk a little bit more about that.
Hi, everyone. We are so glad to see everyone today. Yes, Sarah and I created what we call defining your values, and it is an activity that you can do for each one of your child. Believe it or not, you may have different values for each one of your children, depending on their interests, their ages, and developmental stage of their life. And so for each of your children, you would do this activity. So the basic gist of it is there are these cards, and we have a 5-page instruction and activity packet that we can send you if this is something you're interested in doing at home after this meeting. And you can put your email in the chat if you're comfortable doing that, or you can send us a quick email at Lotus and Ivy Virtual Classes. But basically, the last 2 pages are these cards that have different values on it. So beauty, fun, growth, college preparatory, practical skills, nature-based, STEM, help from teachers, mastery. These are all values that you may value, value very highly. There may be others that you value even more. So what you do is you take these, you spread them all out, and if some of the ones that you like and you highly value are not there, then you can write them down in some of the blanks. But basically, you're trying to get it down to 3 or 5 of these values. For you do one child at a time. So you do this for each one of your children, and you come up with what you're really looking for that particular child in their education. And we at Lotus and Ivy and use the Waldorf curriculum because it is so rich and deep, and gives your child so much more than just the academic. So if that's something that you're really highly valuing and looking for, we think you may find what you're looking for at Lotus and Ivy. Whether you find that here or somewhere else, we really hope that this activity helps you to define your values for your child's education. Every time we do this, I like to share a story about a family who came to us a couple of years ago, and they were a bit lost. They had recently had a flood in their home, and they ended up having mold come into their home, and it was really difficult. Mom knew, though, that she did not want to send her child to public schools, in their area. And so she kept searching. She had her daughter out of school for a bit, and then she found Lotus and Ivy. She did her due diligence. She made sure to call and attend events, and she enrolled her child. She enrolled her in our trial period, which is the first 4 weeks of when a student joins Lotus and Ivy. You can join for that time and see if the program is a good fit for your child. And so she joined knowing that she could adjust her child's schedule. And if it wasn't a good fit, then there would be no more financial obligation after that trial period. Well, after 2 days, I got a phone call from this mom, and she was beaming. She was so happy. Her child wanted to go to school. She wanted to log into class. She was thrilled. She was a sixth grader back then. She just graduated from our eighth grade this past year, and she'll be enrolled in our ninth grade. We hope that your story is something similar to this one, where you do this values activity, you find out what it is that you really value for your child, and you find it, and then your child can blossom and bloom. So with that being said, let's introduce our wonderful teachers, and we will begin with Ms. Karen Smith, our kindergarten teacher.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. I'm Karen Smith, and I'm Lotus and Ivy's kindergarten teacher, as well as I teach complements for hand sewing and woodworking and cooking in the grade school. And so this is my 5th year that I'm walking into with Lotus and Ivy, but this is my 21st year of being a Waldorf kindergarten teacher. So over these years, I've seen a lot of magic. And for those of you who don't speak German, kindergarten means a garden of children. And so as the gardener of the children in our school, my job is to plant seeds. And some of these seeds will germinate and they will grow and blossom over the course of the child's time in kindergarten with me, but some don't. Some blossom later on once the child has gotten into the grade school. So if you would, permit me to share my screen so that I can give you some images of the experiential seeds that will be planted in my kindergarten. All right. So seeds of color mixing and patience are planted when we paint with watercolors. And seeds of fine motor control and persistence are planted when we finger knit and sew, shape with beeswax, cut with scissors, wet felt, draw, and make fun seasonal nature crafts. And seeds of gross motor movement and balance are planted when we do circle, when we play games, and when we do bean bags. And seeds of flexibility and adventure are planted when we make delicious snacks. We cook each week, and we use a wide variety of yummy ingredients. And I would say in general, the children say that cooking is their favorite day. They love cooking. So the specific magical moment I'd like to share with you today is about a little girl who was in my kindergarten several years ago. She was not an adventuresome eater, and she regularly announced when some of the foods that we prepared were not her favorite. So I was quite surprised this past spring when she was signed up to be in my cooking class. And one of the recipes that we prepared were healthy chocolate muffins. And the thing that made these muffins healthy was the addition of 2 vegetables. We had grated carrots and spinach as part of the recipe. And I already knew that this was unlikely to be a recipe that was met with joy with the student, but she prepared it without too much complaint. And surprise of all surprises, once the muffins were out of the oven, she loved them. And that in itself is amazing. However, what was really magical for me was just this past weekend, her mom contacted me to say that my student had baked these same muffins for their neighborhood 4th of July picnic, and then made a second batch of these muffins for her brother's open house at his brand new school. And they were a hit. And my student wanted her mom to send me a photo so that she could show me that, yes, she had made these muffins and she used both the spinach and the carrots as the ingredients. Well, I routinely hear stories like this from parents of my current students and my former students, because it truly is Waldorf magic when a child says, I can't do this, and then later they say, look what I've done. The process of learning something new, of growing in confidence to be able to share it with others, and then repeating it again and again, well, that's like a big, beautiful flower that has grown in the student's garden of skill. And so I hope some of your children might join my kindergarten or one of my complement classes so that you will also have that opportunity to see the magical blossoming of your child's new skill within your very own home. I welcome you with warm heart to Lotus and Ivy. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Next, we're going to go out of order just a little bit and have one of our second grade teachers, Ms. Roselli, go.
Hello, everyone. It's so good to see some familiar faces and to be with our wonderful faculty here at Lotus and Ivy. Miss Smith, your response to this question always fills me with so much joy because it really resonates with our second graders too. When we begin second grade, sometimes we feel like we just can't do anything. I can't read, I can't draw, I will never be able to participate in those very complicated beanbag activities. But for me as a second grade teacher and also the drama teacher here at Lotus and Ivy, the most magical moments for me are getting to be a part of the students' lives through those I can'ts into the I cans. And that's the most magical part for me, is watching our students come into our class for that first day, being shy, not wanting to participate, but then ending our school year being a part of beautiful circle times, being up on our feet, doing challenging things, being a part of a play online in front of our whole school community, or even putting on their own puppet show, telling their own beautiful stories. And that is the most magical part of our work here at Lotus and Ivy, is telling our stories, being creative, and learning through doing. And I cannot wait to share this school year with you all.
Thank you so much, Ms. Roselli. Now we're going to go back to first grade and have Ms. Gimignani share.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you live. My name is Vanessa Gimignani. I live in Portland, Oregon. I teach first grade main lesson. I teach many other complements at Lotus and Ivy as well. I teach form drawing to cursive. I teach cursive. I teach the ukulele classes, crafting for first and second grade as well, mixed media painting, and all the watercolor classes of grades 1 through 4. I had to write down all the classes that I teach because there's so many. I love working for Lotus and Ivy. I used to teach at an in-person Waldorf school for 4 years, and then COVID happened and I found Lotus and Ivy, and the transition has felt so nourishing for me and for the children and families that I teach. I was thinking about just like one thing, you know, that is like really sweet to share. And I just have a list. I think the connections that I get to have with children and their parents is really unique. And in person, it wasn't quite possible, but because we have such small class sizes, how we get to work with each other is just really intimate. You know, being invited to help when children have trouble with bedtime, and, you know, when they have trouble with transitions or sharing things that are going on at home, and how I get to be like a helper, a co-teacher with you, is just such a gift. It's really, I really feel like an additional family member to the families that I get to teach in first grade. And first grade is just my favorite. You know, and taking all of the things that Miss Smith said and bringing those seeds into the same soil, but adding different nutrients to the soil. In Waldorf curriculum, we water deep and we water slow, and we add lots of fertilizer. And so in first grade, we learn all the letters one at a time, and we learn all the numbers one at a time. And this is a story that I love. You might be thinking that's way too slow. But I had a child years ago in class who already knew how to read into first grade, and she knew addition and subtraction. She was very fluent in these things. And she was so excited to come to class. And one day one of her parents asked, you already know how to read. You already know what these letters are. Why are you so excited to go to class? And she said, I just can't wait to know what story Miss Geminiani tells to introduce the next letter. So the love and excitement and inspiration that we get to be a part of by teaching and learning in this way is something that just doesn't exist in other places. And we're working with children at the beginning of their lives. And so the goal is to give them sustainable fuel, sustainable food that is going to help them love learning for the rest of their life, not just checking boxes of their ability to do things. So first grade, we start with a form drawing block, and we do lots of painting, and we work on the balance beam, and we use bean bags. And it's just a really lovely, wonderful time. We sing, we dance, we also have a class play. That was another one of my favorite things. Watching the children, I thought, oh my goodness, this is going to be maybe too much for some of them, but they rose to the occasion. And the backdrops that they made, and them having their lines memorized in first grade, it was just unbelievable. And the confidence that grew in just one short year was just such a gift to see. So I hope that you'll join us here at Lotus and Ivy. We all clearly love what we do here. So hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Ms. Gimignani. Next, we're going to have Ms. Tesha Brown.
Hello, it's so good to be here. My name's Miss Tesha Brown, and I have worked here at Lotus and Ivy for the last 2 years. This will be my 3rd year that I'm heading into. But up until this point, I've been teaching middle school sciences specifically. And so I'm so excited to come back into the early years and teach 2nd grade this year. And so I will be teaching 2nd grade main lesson and 2nd grade arithmetic and writing and phonics. And I've had the wonderful pleasure of teaching 2nd grade in person 3 times. And so I'm so happy to be teaching 2nd grade online. And it's been so fun hearing these other teachers talk about their favorite things about Waldorf education and about their experiences. And so much that I have experiences really echoes what they've said already. Something that I really love about 2nd grade is bringing in all of these arts and academics together. And so exploring writing through drama and through poetry and through drawing. And when working with arithmetic in 2nd grade, you're bringing so many new things, but when you bring them, you're really looking at the pictures that are created, these beautiful pictures that live in arithmetic, and experiencing them in that way, experiencing arithmetic through these beautiful pictures. And so that's what I'm really excited to explore with those of you who are in my classes this year online, really looking at the beauty that lives in language and the beauty that lives in arithmetic, and just really bringing that to life, hopefully, with some of you. And so welcome. I'm really excited, and I look forward to meeting some of you soon.
Thank you so much, Ms. Brown. Next, we have Ms. Mary Jo Abinator.
All right, I'm unmuted already, right? Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Mary Jo Abinator, and I am from Portland, Oregon. And maybe, is that a cousin over there? Cousin Nader? Maybe. We can check that out later. I live in Portland, Oregon, and I'm going into Lotus and Ivy. This is our 5th year together, isn't it? I've been there from the beginning. I will be teaching 2 sections of grade 3 main lesson and I'll be teaching one section of math skills and one section of language arts, which includes grammar, vocabulary, spelling, and composition. I'll also this year be adding to my schedule an extra lesson, developmental movement integration lesson, which I am looking forward to, which serves 3rd through 6th graders in a special program. So we were asked to share a magical moment that we've experienced with Lotus and Ivy. And I have been a Waldorf teacher for going on 25 years now. And so I have taught in person in 2 different schools, one in Hawaii, one here in Portland, taught the grades 1st through 8th grade, and then moved on to this online virtual connection. And I have to tell you, I am so impressed each year with the connections that are made in our virtual setting. It is fascinating to me. And I have a few different lenses to share with you. So as a teacher, when I see the biggest magic I can see is in 3rd grade, when a student really makes a connection with something that they've been struggling with. So the young man in 3rd grade in math just burst out of his skin when he said, "Now I understand division," and just had to blurt it out because some little imagination or picture that I gave him made sense to him in that moment. So I didn't have to draw it on the chalkboard. We did use manipulatives, or we talked about imaginations, images to go with it, and that worked for him. And sometimes I notice that this kind of success, this kind of explosion of excitement when learning something new happens mostly because the grown-up at home and the teacher, the grown-up and me, have a collaborative relationship, and we can work together to support the child. So in my class, that has happened so many times where the grown-ups, you are your child's homeschool teacher still, and we're working together to support your child in their growth. So I'm bringing an imagination, and you are able to help your child dive deeply into it. So 3rd grade is a year full of tricky learning. And some of you have heard this from me. We've already had our beginning of the year conference, and I've asked the children, and all of you children here today can ask yourselves, when there's something tricky that I have to learn and it feels too tricky, right? What do I do? Do I throw myself on the floor and scream about it? Is that how we get through tricky moments? No, I see Jack over there saying, no, that doesn't work, right? That doesn't work. We do get frustrated, but in the magic of the moment, if we can work together and step away, take a drink of water, eat a snack, do some jump rope, and then come back to that tricky problem, and I'll bet that you'll be able to solve it. So that is my magical moment of how we can work through the tricky moments of 3rd grade together. So I look forward to meeting the ones I haven't met yet, and anyone else who's interested to joining you at, we have an orientation meeting for our class, each main lesson class next week. So I look forward to seeing you there and at our one-on-one conferences. And thank you everyone, for my colleagues and the colleague parents. All of you, we're all working together to support your child's success.
Thank you so much, Ms. Abby Nader. And now we'll have Ms. Audrey Brown.
Hello, everyone. I am Audrey Brown, and I am joining Mary Jo this year with a 12 o'clock Eastern Time, 3rd grade main lesson. I will also be teaching the 2nd grade skills classes in language arts and arithmetic, as well as beginning and continuing knitting classes. So I have a little bit of a variety there, and I think that I'm super excited about going to 3rd grade because I have think I'm the only Lotus and Ivy teacher who has gone from first to second and now to third grade with some of my students are joining me in this progression. So it's really exciting to look forward to seeing them in my class again in third grade, as well as the new students who are joining in. And that's exciting too, because we've had heavy boys in my classes and now we have lots of girls joining in. So I know my one girl that was the only girl last year is going to be so happy. I have what I bring that I think is unique as a teacher is I have taught in brick and mortar Waldorf schools for a long time. But before that, when my own children who are 35 and 39 now, when they were starting their homeschool journey 30 years ago, we had a homeschool collective and I worked with a Waldorf teacher and did homeschooling in addition to her teaching. So she taught me so much, and I was able to go to teacher conferences and ultimately do the Waldorf teacher training and then move to where I could teach in Waldorf schools. So I have this background in homeschool teacher-led collaboration. And I really, like Mary Jo, I really value the collaborative aspect of parent teaching and teacher teaching and how we can work together to bring the curriculum forward for the children. And I think in third grade, I'm mostly excited about the fact I love third grade. I love third grade so much because I'm a gardener and a knitter and a seamstress, and I do I put food up all summer long for the winter. And third grade is a year of hands-on coming to the earth and learning to be capable people on the earth, because the children are going through what we lovingly call the 9-year change. So it can be challenging, but the children are discovering that they themselves are a little bit separate from what's outside of them. So there's now an I and a thou, and they have to find out how to navigate that world. And one of the ways to find themselves and feel confident is to learn things like house building and where their food comes from, and all the grains and the textiles and the things of the world that the third graders will learn about, which is really, really fun. One of my most magical experiences with Lotus and Ivy has been when in the classroom, those aha moments that the other teachers have spoken of are really wonderful moments. But I really value the relationships with the children and the parents. And I've had a couple of experiences in the summer
said as a teacher and like what you
where people have come, where some of my students and their families have come to visit me in Michigan. I come to you from northern Michigan, near Lake Michigan. And it's been such a joy to develop those relationships and spend time together in nature here in northern Michigan. So yeah, another magical thing I wanted to share was, because I've gone through the grades first and second with my students in second grade, at the end of second grade, my students were requesting things that we did. They wanted to sing and review things that we did in first grade. And so we had to sing the first grade songs and movements in our circle at the end of second grade. When we were reviewing second grade, they also were reviewing first grade. So what we bring in this creative curriculum and with our methods stays with the children with just loving enthusiasm. And I think that's the goal, is that the children love learning and we create a strong foundation in the early grades for all their future learning. So I thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing some of you in my classes.
Thank you, Miss Brown. And now I'll have Miss Garlieb speak.
Mom, they're on third grade. Okay, I also want to wait that way.
And I'm teaching third grade this year, third grade main lesson, third grade math skills, and third grade composition, grammar, spelling, and vocabulary. And I wanted to tell you two magical things. One comes from my own personal experience. I've been teaching 2 years here at Lotus and Ivy, but in total, I've been teaching 27 years in the Waldorf curriculum. And I've taught in a public Waldorf school. I've taught in a private Waldorf school. I've homeschooled my own son, and I've been teaching here online. And guess what? They all work. And that's really magical to me, that it works in all these different ways and meets the children because it's real connection. And one of the things that happened in my third grade math skills last year reminded me of that. And we were doing a measurement activity in which we were converting the children's heights from feet and inches into total inches. And I thought that we would do a few children, but they got really engaged in this activity. And what I thought was going to be a kind of one and done turned into this 2-week project where we began to draw the comparative heights of the children. It wasn't proportions yet. That comes in 7th grade, but it was a precursor, right? And the children wanted to know details about each other. What kind of shoes are you wearing? How long is your hair exactly? And there were also lots of surprises like, wow, Ms. Garley was really tall compared to us. And 3 children were all the exact same height at that moment in time. And that, for me, was the magic. It was a magic of seeing the other and being seen. It was a magic of connectivity. So I hope to connect with some of you in my classes this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garlieb. Next, we have Ms. McGee.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. I am Miss McGee, and I am looking forward to teaching here at Lotus and Ivy for the 5th year. I have been homeschooling my daughter the whole way through, and she has started 8th grade this school year. For these past 8 years, I've been working exclusively with homeschoolers, both here at Lotus and Ivy in my own home, and I guess actually 3 ways. I also teach at an in-person Waldorf homeschool enrichment program. And then before that, I got my start in the Waldorf world at a brick and mortar school. So this year, I'll be teaching 2 sections of the 4th grade main lesson, the 4th grade math skills, a section of that, 2 4th grade language arts classes. And I'm also teaching the pentatonic flute for grades 1 and 2, and then the C flute or the diatonic flute for grades 3 and up. And when I first got my start in the Waldorf community that I started in 17 years ago, what stood out to me was the idea that we were creating responsible world citizens. And that concept just delighted me, and it stuck with me through my teacher training and working in the Waldorf world and my own personal striving. And what strikes me now of the magic here at Lotus and Ivy is that I can really feel that. I can feel that we are all becoming responsible world citizens. We're showing up here in all corners of the world, and we're all collaborating to bring Waldorf education in the best way that we can, sustainably, to our own children, and to support each other as we bring that education. And the relationships that are started and the support and the community that is built is just magical. Of course, in my classes, I see students forming friendships, and that is beautiful and wonderful. Even more magically is behind the scenes, when I meet with the grown-ups one-on-one, they have formed their own friendships, and they are supporting each other through homeschooling in the 4th grade and figuring out the homeschool requirements and in different ways to make it work in their individual homes. And in the classroom, I have seen the students support one another, whether it be a technical issue, you know, they kind of all get on board and say, try this. And we come together as a community and work it out. Our teacher meetings and faculty, we can reach out to one another and we're supporting each other and brainstorming how best to bring this Waldorf education to the children. And even for us, I have an example. Last year, I was having a day. It was a technical nightmare, and I ended up teaching the second half of the day on my little iPad and just doing what I could to make it work. And, you know, after that, teaching the classes, and it went okay, but I was just exhausted trying to figure that out and make it work. And so I was kind of closing down my day, and I went into my email inbox, and the emails that I got from the grown-ups who had witnessed this were so encouraging and so uplifting. And so I think that it's interesting that we are creating such a beautiful, supporting and uplifting community here at Lotus and Ivy. And I am just so delighted to be a part of it. So thank you for being here and listening to my magical moment.
Thank you so much, Ms. McGee. Next, we're going to have Ms. Packer.
Hi, everybody. My name is Miss Stephanie Packer, and I am originally from the United States, but teaching here from Spain, where I'm currently living with my family. And I have been a Waldorf teacher for about 15 years, the majority of which I was working in various different brick and mortar Waldorf schools. And this is now my second year with Lotus and Ivy. And I am so excited to be teaching this coming year grade 4. So I'll be teaching one of the sections of grade 4 main lesson, as well as one of the groups for the language arts skills and math skills as well. And I'll also be teaching some of the older students with a US history class and a few of the grade 9 blocks. So one of the reasons I'm particularly excited this year to be teaching 4th grade is I'll be having some of the students who I met in my 3rd grade Spanish class and my 3rd grade form drawing class from last year. I'm excited to reunite with some of those students and meet all of the new ones as well. And I'm also really excited to teach 4th grade because I just love 4th grade curriculum. So we will be diving into the world of Norse mythology and Beowulf, some of the most exciting and even humorous stories in the Waldorf curriculum. And then I'll get to look at many of those seeds that Ms. Smith mentioned are already being planted in the kindergarten years. So we'll come back to cooking, but this time through the lens of fractions, and we'll come back to painting, and we'll come back to some beanbag work, but this time tying it in with our math work as well. And like those nature walks in those early childhood years of just magically taking in the beautiful surroundings, we will come back in our study of local geography. So it's a year in which we can deepen a lot of that work that has already been happening and also plant some seeds for what will come later on in the upper grades and hopefully high school years as you all follow along with your Waldorf journey. And let's see, it's hard to pick just one magical moment because there really are so many. I guess one I can think of from Lotus and Ivy last year was when I was teaching the mineralogy block to the 6th grade students. And literally the afternoon after we had been learning about geodes, one of my students was out on a walk and she found a large, beautiful geode right on a path behind her house. And so she came to class the next day and of course showed us what she had found, which was beautiful. And it was really helpful actually to see her example. But I think what was most exciting for me and for her and even for her classmates was to hear that she was even more excited, not about what she had found, but about a whole new lens that she felt she had developed for the world around her. So she felt that the class sort of woke her up in a new way and taught her just how to observe her surroundings. So again, there are so many magical moments that happen here at Lotus and Ivy, and I hope that you will all be able to keep track of many of them as they happen along the path that you'll travel with your children through your Lotus and Ivy journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Packer. And we're going to hear from our last but not least teacher, Ms. Olga Domikos, our 5th grade teacher.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for hanging in there. This is a lot to hear from everyone, and I'm so excited to hear all these magical moments. And it really had to sift through my memory to decide which one to share with you, because there have been so many. I've been a Waldorf teacher for over 10 years, and before that, I worked on the business side of education mostly. And eventually, I decided to complete my Waldorf teacher training and a master's degree in education. And I've been with Lotus and Ivy since the beginning. This will be my 5th year. And of those 5, I've taught, this is the 4th year I'll be teaching the 5th grade main lessons. Additionally, I will be teaching one of the 5th grade math tracks, one of the 6th grade math tracks, and 9th grade math. And what I thought I would share with you is a little story from the Greek block that we had this year. And we'll be learning about ancient Greece with all of you who are going into 5th grade. So this story, it comes from, it's one of the oldest epics in the world. It was written down by a man named Homer. And in this story, a beautiful Greek woman whose name is Helen, apparently she's the most beautiful woman in Greece at the time, she was kidnapped by the Trojans. And so 2 Greek kings came to the Trojans to ask them to return Helen so that they can take her back home. And the 2 kings who come to Troy are Agamemnon and Odysseus. Now, when they come to the Trojan court, of course, the Trojans are very curious about these 2 kings. And Agamemnon has this tall stature. He's very kingly looking. He immediately commands respect. And when he starts to speak, everyone falls silent and they listen to him. And next to him stands Odysseus, he has broad shoulders, but he's much shorter. And while Agamemnon and everyone's speaking, he just kind of gazes at the floor in front of him, and he doesn't say anything. And all the Trojans are kind of thinking, well, what is wrong with this person? They're kind of like, is he really a king? Is he really smart? And then Odysseus starts to speak. And Homer says words were floating out of his mouth like snowflakes in winter. And those snowflakes fell beautifully, and they were gentle, and they were smart, and everyone was astounded in the room. So we read this with my 5th graders this year, and then I asked them, so what did you think? And one of the students raised his hand and he said, well, I think I could describe this scene as don't judge a book by its cover. Because Odysseus, he was quiet, but he was really wise. And sometimes people are like that. Maybe they don't like to speak up so much in front of a lot of people. They still can have a lot of gifts, and they still can have a lot to bring to a group or to a conversation. And so this was one of the magical moments this year. And what I would like, and I'm hoping, and I'm looking forward to seeing, is all of you bringing your gifts to our class and getting to know you and seeing everyone's gifts and everyone's excitement and curiosity, and that's how we create a learning community together. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. If you have other questions, please do send us an email. We'd be happy to get on a call or another Zoom with you. And we look forward to seeing you in just a couple weeks.
Thank you all for coming. Have a great rest of your day, whether it is morning, afternoon, or evening where you are. And we hope to see you in classes in 2 weeks.
Bye-bye.